Recording in progress.
Good. All right, it's 6:33. I'll call the meeting to order. First up, modifications and changes. Is there anything to add or change to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public? Dave?
Okay, I don't want to take up your time. I just wanted to get here while you're in your budget cycle. We're thinking that we would like to try to have a pavement in the village next year. And I know there's a lot of details that need to be worked out. But one of the main details would be to have water. And we'd like to do it on the park in front of the grandstand. And if it should happen to work, I wonder how we would be able to have you folks do a couple of frost valves on the park so that we could have water for that.
Well, there's a frost valve by the doorway. Well, we turn that water off, usually we turn it off in the fall. I mean, it's a frost free, it's a drain free. I mean, there is water there. There's also water in the bandstand. We have to heat the bandstand to keep the meter from freezing. But I don't think we need to install any more water shut-offs. I think they're there. You may have to run some hoses.
So we could run a frost-free valve out of the bandstand.
Well, right now, there's one also already out there by the doughboy that's frost-free.
Yeah, but that's a long ways away from the bandstand.
No, all we have is in the bandstand, we have the water in the bandstand. You'd have to heat the bandstand inside, and then you can run a hose from there out.
And then drain the valve after? Or continue to heat it?
We need to heat it, yes.
Because you wouldn't want to take the meter out every time.
Right.
Right.
There's a heating system in the bandstand?
I was kinda hoping it didn't.
I was gonna say, I'm like,
We have
what?
to heat it.
No, that's what they're saying, you'd have to bring some kind of heating system inside to warm it up.
But obviously there's water underground there. And would it be impossible to put a frost-free valve right there, but like at the corner of the bandstand? You know what I mean? The valve
I mean, we have to go find the line and connect to it.
Maybe you can across sidewalk.
Yeah, we can across the sidewalk and stuff.
Is there any way to put a frost valve in the bandstand? So you're not digging anything, you just gotta get it below frost level.
Right. Well,
There's still the issue of the meter though.
Is there a meter on the doughboy? Doughboy one?
No.
On the bandstand?
There's a meter on the bandstand, but not on the doughboy.
So what you're saying is that if they wanted to run hoses through the park,
Yeah.
they could use that frost valve.
We got a frost free right there by the doughboy, right, by the flagpole.
That would be a long way, but how often would you plan on filling it?
Well, you need to flood it periodically,
Right.
resurface it.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know, I mean, if there's
a couple hundred feet of hose is,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Would be sufficient.
Dig up that sidewalk somewhere else, it's gonna be cheaper to buy a couple hundred feet of hose, I think.
Well, cheaper and easier.
If you've got water at the bandstand,
We have water downstairs in the bandstand.
you need to dig up the sidewalk.
No, but it's in the bandstand, it's in the backside of the bandstand.
there's a meter in the bandstand that would freeze if it was left.
Yeah, I understand that, so
Right,
there's a supply to that meter.
Right now,
I guess I don't understand why it'd be impossible to do that, but anyway, the reason I'm here is because if it happens, and we get further into the year, and we look to you folks to help us out with water, it would be nice if there were a line in the budget, that we had some money to use to do that.
Just for water or for the
Basically
rink
just for
too?
water. Now, like I said, there's a lot that I don't know about this. You know,
yeah, it sounds like you guys need to do some more research, Dave, to figure out exactly whether you want to do it, how you would propose accomplishing it, and then, you know, the board would need to consider what other kinds of expenses that, you know, they would be looking to donate to some kind of public effort on that. And I mean, it sounds like there's still some things that need to get thought out about it. But just basically, you know, from what you've described, unless there's infrastructure that you're asking the village to, you know, put in place there, and if that's the case, then you really do need to research it more so that we understand what kind of infrastructure you're asking for. But if it's just a donation of water to go in and, you know, flood a proposed rink 2 or 3 times during the winter, that's not really a big ticket item. That's a relatively small amount of a donation. You're asking basically just for water services.
And heating the inside, the bottom of the bandstand would not be a large expense either.
Well,
It would depend on where he got his water
That's one of the things that
from.
may have to get figured out is, you know, how would you do it? How would you supply the water? And if it's gonna come from the bandstand, I don't know, Gary and Ken, I guess you would be the better experts about that.
There's a water spigot downstairs.
Would you have to continuously run a heater in there, or could
I
you?
think you'd have to.
Oh, so you would all
Yeah,
winter?
because it freezes.
You couldn't just, you know, freeze it for a couple of days, turn it off, and then come back in a month and
We'd have to-
reheat it again? It'd have to be all
We'd have
winter?
to drain it, either drain it every time we.
Okay, so that is more than you're talking about probably it'd be electric heaters, I guess.
Probably.
So you're talking about a donation of electricity then to heat the bandstand through the winter as well.
I mean, the frost freeze is probably a couple 100 feet from where that frost free hydrant is by the doughboy.
Right.
Probably a couple 100 feet of hose, I
That's going from the doughboy to the rink,
Right. Well,
rather than from the bandstand to the rink.
I mean, that would work, I mean, it's, yeah, see, so there's water there all
mean.
winter?
Yeah, we turn it off in the fall and go use it, but we can turn the water on.
We could, well, that would work,
And it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
that's fine. So, now, just to help me out a little bit, what do I need from the village to be able to do something like this? Do I need a permit from you folks?
Parks use permit, yes.
Okay.
Or you have lights too, I mean, you have the lights.
We'd like-
Yeah, whatever, Sam's right, you need a park use permit, but you also need to, you know, make a request to the trustees of whatever resources you're asking for from the village. So, you know, if it's electricity, water, I don't know if you're asking for, you know, like, for the village to build some kind of, you know, wood border to contain the, you know, the water as a rink. I don't know, those are things that,
I would say not, I look at that as a volunteer project, so. I think quite simple to do something relatively nice. So, if it doesn't need to be, you know, a budget item, that's fine.
I don't think just water.
I don't think the electricity then would be the most. I mean, if you're asking for the village to heat the bandstand for 3 or 4 months, electric heat isn't cheap. And
Or lights, we need lights for night skating, I'm not gonna put lights up or down.
Yeah.
But, forget about the bandstand thing, if we can get water at the doughboy, that's fine. But lights, how much is that gonna be?
like,
It would depend, it would depend somewhat if you wanted to do, 7 days a week, if you just wanted lighted skating on the weekend, like
Yeah.
what your schedule would be, I guess.
I think it's still early to tell all the details, but I don't know about you guys, but I don't think there'd be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just trying to get my ducks in a row early here, I'm talking about next year, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as budgeting goes, if you want to just shoot for using the doughboy water next year
Yeah.
and see how everything goes with the rink itself,
Yeah.
if it turns out to be a big hit, then we can talk about getting a frost valve next to the
Maybe we can
bandstand.
make some
Yeah,
adjustments.
a little closer.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going also to talk with the town and to the rec department. So,
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a good project for, I mean, that's actually what the rec department is for,
yeah.
is to, you know, create recreational opportunities for the community. So, you know, if you want to talk to the town about covering those kinds of expenses, I mean, that's right up their alley. That's what the rec department is there for.
This is certainly a good, healthy idea.
There's
Yeah.
10 to have a budget, so I guess a small budget, but
Yep, good idea though.
that's all.
Okay,
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Dave.
thanks for coming in, Dave.
Okay, any other public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom? Just Ellen?
Just Alan.
All right, we will move on to review and approval for the minutes on January 11th and for the special meeting January 18th. If everybody got a chance to look those over and didn't find any errors or anything left out, I will hear a motion to accept them both.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Eli with the first, Sandy with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. All right, that's unanimous. All right, up next, 2022 Vtrans mileage certification.
So if the board looks in your packet, you'll see a new certificate of highway mileage form. This is more a piece of housekeeping item that we do every year. We have to certify the mileage to Vtrans that we have within the village borders. Gary's looked this over. Mileage hasn't changed. His recommendation is to approve the certificate of highway mileage, and then we can send it back to Vtrans. So if the board is in agreement, there's a signature area for you guys to sign. I've got the original here, if you guys are prepared to do that.
No changes.
Sounds good to me.
Other motion?
I move we accept and take it as it is.
Second.
Sandy with the first, Eli with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. All right, that's unanimous. Alright. Where do I go here? Right here.
Yeah, it's kind of down
Somewhere,
here.
somewhere over here. Sure.
Yeah.
As long as it's on the papers.
You got a pen?
I got one. It's in my pocket.
Just don't sign it where the town clerk has to sign it, that's all. Pretend.
Yeah, so when you get done signing that, Sandy can just give it
Oh,
to
yeah,
Gary and he
thanks.
can go send it over to V-Trans.
Will do.
Okay. While we're signing that, we'll move on to VEPSA/Momentum interview request.
In your package, you'll see a memo from myself and then also some email correspondence from Julia Leopold, who's the communication specialist at VEPSA. VEPSA has been working with a company called Momentum in order to try and look into the possibility of putting an educational campaign together for VEPSA's members, for the 11 electric utilities that are members of VEPSA, to help promote both the organization, VEPSA as an organization, but also its individual membership as well, and get the word out to people in various service territories what the value of public power is and how this service benefits them as customers in a public power electric service territory. So I did an interview with Momentum, I'd say mid-December, by telephone. They had called me and I spent probably about an hour talking with a representative of Momentum about, just my insights of what it's like managing an electric utility in rural Vermont, and some of the value that I think public power brings to its customers. But they'd like to take kind of a little deeper dive now, and they would like to speak to elected officials that are also responsible for overseeing and managing electric utilities in rural Vermont. And they're not doing it with all of the members of VEPSA. I think they're doing it with 6 of them, and Enosburg Falls is one of the ones that VEPSA decided they would like to try and do some interviews with board members. So if you flip to the correspondence from Julia, she's got some dates in February. Where'd it go? Oh, right, it's right at the top there. She's got some dates in February that she asked if I would bring this back to you guys and see if there's one or two board members that would be willing to join in an interview with Momentum. And those dates would be Thursday, February 17th, sometime between 9 and 1, or Wednesday, February 23rd, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. If there's one or two Board of Trustee members that would be willing to do that. I say one or two because if you get a majority, then it becomes a public meeting, and that kind of defeats the purpose of you being able to do, a confidential, sort of no holds barred interview with Momentum.
So is this gonna be like an on the record advertisement kind of interview, or is it more of a?
No, I think it's more of kind of an informational gathering and trying to garner what insights they can from your perspective as elected officials overseeing the electric utility. And they're going to use this as part of a program to help people understand what public power brings to the table and the value of public power to the communities that it serves. So to my knowledge, I don't think they're gonna be looking to like specifically quote you on things, like say, oh, Sam Ballantyne, village trustee from Enosburg Falls said this. I don't think that's what they're going to be doing. If they did, they certainly would have to ask you permission if they wanted to, use a quotation from you in a pamphlet or something that they developed in the future.
Any takers?
It's way too early in my tenure to know anything about it.
Same here.
I would say, I flip the switch and the lights come on. About the best idea.
Be a short
ever.
interview then.
Yeah, it would be
Right.
short, yep. I get frustrated when the power goes out, and that would be, which it doesn't.
I
Right?
agree with her.
All right, well, it looks like it's coming down to either me or Heather. I can't guarantee, since it's during my work
Yeah.
schedule, that I'll be able to do it, but
And is this totally in person, or are they doing it electronically, or
I
it
think that-
didn't seem to say anywhere? It looks like it's
Yeah.
in Waterbury.
I think that the intent is to do it electronically. I think. That's how I did my interview with them, was just on the telephone. They gave me a call on the phone, and that's how I did it with them.
That certainly would be a little more helpful to you.
Interviews is so.
Now, is it the full 4 hours? I know she has 9 to 1 there, but then on the next page, this says it's only a 1 hour interview.
Yeah, I think that's a time range.
Okay, so
sometime-
from 9 to 1.
Right, sometime from 9 to 1, and then sometime from noon to 5.
Okay,
Not the whole slot,
okay. so
but
that's the time range.
an hour somewhere in that time period.
I'll talk to Heather. Between the two of us, we can come up with at least one, I think.
Okay.
Especially if you can pick your hour.
Say, hopefully
Let her
it's
know
not
that,
before.
yes, I can do this, but this is when I can do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't say whether it's an in-person or an electronic, but I think it's intended to be electronic. That's how I did it.
Do you wanna shoot her an email tomorrow and just ask roughly how long they think it'll take, and if it is in person or electronic?
Is this what you talked
I
about? It's
can.
all
and-
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you guys want me to tell her you're still deciding?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
we still have some time.
Right?
Like I said, I can't guarantee, but we'll figure it out.
It doesn't say anything about how.
Yeah, it doesn't have, I just reread it again. It didn't say the format, but
It must be electronic.
yeah, I'm sure they're gonna offer an electronic option. Vespa's got the facilities to do that, and,
And CDC's already looking for another variant, so
yeah,
I'm sure it must be a whirlwind.
yeah, I'm pretty sure
Oh,
that
hold
they
on,
let you do it.
Leonard just figured it out. It's on the next page.
Oh,
Page 3. Didn't read page, no, they're only 2 pages.
Well, we're just talking about, I'll say January.
Well, yes.
It'll be a 1 hour interview.
Right. But it doesn't say the format,
Yep.
really. So I think, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be an electronic option. I mean, they have to offer that. They can't expect you to drive down to Waterbury.
Especially for a 1 hour interview
Right.
from
I-
Enosburg
I doubt
or
Momentum,
Derby.
yeah, I doubt Momentum, who is not from Waterbury either, is gonna be physically present in VEPSA's offices either, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna offer an electronic option. But I will, I'll let Julia know you guys are still deciding. You think that you can maybe get one person anyway. But you need some time to think about it, and I'll follow up just to double check on the
So you have some more
format
answers.
and make sure it is an electronic option that'll be there. Okay.
All right, moving on to 2022 budget and annual meeting.
What did you want to do first on budget or
I think we're gonna sort of do a combination of both of them, but we can go through the budget stuff mostly first. You guys should have a copy of the newest draft Abby's provided per the board's request. The taxes actually gone up slightly from last draft, mostly due to the telephone information now being inserted into the budget. Remember, that was something that we were still kind of hanging out there with because we didn't have finalized numbers for telephone service upgrade.
CDL testing was $4,000 that was added to the last discussion for the labor position.
Yep.
So, combination of those things increased the tax rate again slightly. So we're now looking at a 24.42% increase, which translates to 13.25 cents on the tax rate. There's also quite a few questions related to both the budget and getting the annual meeting set and organized that we need to go through as well. So maybe we'll go through some of these questions, which will also bring us back to some of the items in the budget, and then at the end, we can see if there are any other questions or changes that the board would like to make on here. So, I think the first question I have for you guys is, the issue over the electric department's digger truck and whether that needs to be a public vote or whether the Board of Trustees has the legal ability to approve that purchase has been answered, and we are well within the threshold needed to meet the debt requirements on that in order for you guys to give approval yourselves on the electric department digger truck without having to go to a public vote on that. So that's the answer to that question. There's another part to this though that has come up, which is Dave Westcomb, in further conversations with the sales rep for the vehicle, has been informed that prices have gone up considerably over the last 6 weeks or so on the vehicle, and he's now working, yeah, like everything, you know, it's just crazy, the inflation rate that's taking place in our society. And he's working now on a new estimate to give to Dave. He believes he'll have that to him tomorrow, but he said to be prepared for a significant increase. probably upwards of $300,000.
$300,000 increase?
No,
Or-
it's
From
total.
two-
I was just gonna
That
say,
is
I'm going now.
We had 230,000 was
Right.
the first number from last year, and now they're saying minimally
So about
300.
right, so 70,000 increase approximately, but he said to be prepared for 300,000, maybe more.
So like 35% or something.
Wow. Somebody's smiling somewhere.
Yeah.
Buy
Yeah,
your dump truck and get a bigger truck.
yeah.
Maybe we can get that one back from Chad.
So, but he's supposed to have something to Dave tomorrow on that. Now, I think, you know, on the upside with this in terms of the budget and where we are in the budget process, because you guys have the ability to approve the purchase of this without having to go to a public vote, you could actually, you know, do that later in the year if you decided you wanted to approve the purchase of a new digger truck. It doesn't have to be timed with the annual meeting because the public isn't gonna vote on it. So say, whatever, a month from now, 2 months from now, if you guys decide, okay, we've got enough information on this, we feel comfortable with our decision, let's take a vote on it, you could do it then. And that's not a problem because you have the authority to make the decision on it. So just something to throw out there to you guys. But we're supposed to get a revised number tomorrow. And then we can, when we get closer to the end of budgetary discussions, we can talk about what you want to do for next week, see where we are at that point.
So we were within the threshold to make a board decision
And
based on the old number or on the new number?
Either one.
either one.
Okay.
It's, you can't be a certain percentage of your assets. The electric utility has a significant amount of assets, so we are very comfortably underneath that threshold for the standards.
Mhm. Okay. So I think maybe the next thing we'll do, move to more of an annual meeting item as opposed to a budgetary item. And that has to do with actually holding the meeting in the format of the annual meeting, which ties into the warning and how the warning has to be written. And we're running right up against the deadline now on getting the warning together and reviewed by our attorney. That has to get published in the newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have a little bit of time, but not a whole lot of time left to pull all the pieces of this together. Really, drop dead has to be next Tuesday, absolute minimum. You guys will need to make any decisions that are not made tonight regarding budget and annual meeting. So the concern or the question about the format for the annual meeting came up as a result of my putting together a draft warning and sending it over to our attorney. And we're still, I felt like I still wasn't quite sure how you guys wanted to hold the meeting. I heard from some board members that you wanted to do a hybrid type of meeting. I heard from some board members that they wanted to do an electronic only meeting. So I posed the question to our attorney, you know, is there a possible way for us to do a hybrid meeting? And after a couple of conversations between Jesse and I sort of batting around all the different what ifs, the different scenarios that could come up if we attempted to do a hybrid meeting, we came to the conclusion that there really wasn't a way that we could ensure all voter rights under a hybrid type of meeting for annual meeting, not talking about regular meeting, just for the annual meeting, because the laws and statutes are different for annual meeting than regular meeting process. They're actually sort of like polar opposites to each other. During a board's regular meeting, you, the Board of Trustees, are making all the decisions and taking action on any items. In an annual meeting, It's the exact opposite. You guys actually don't make any decisions as a board about any of the items. All of the decisions are made by the public, not the board. And so you have to give 100% access to the voting public to vote in whichever way may come up out of whatever scenario you choose to hold the meeting. So in a hybrid meeting, as an example, one of the scenarios we came up with that we could not really ensure voter rights is if you were holding a physical meeting, people have the right to call for a paper ballot. So if people are electronically attending the meeting, they couldn't vote by paper ballot, and there's no way for them to do that if they're not here. They have to be physically present in the building to do that. So that could create a real problem, and obviously anybody that was attending electronically, if somebody did call for a paper ballot on an article item, would be pretty upset. It would exclude them from being able to participate in that vote. So the only sure way that we felt, you could provide that voter right responsibility in the meeting is to do it all electronically, do everything by Australian ballot, same way we did it last year, actually. That's how we did everything last year. Difference was last year it was mandated by the state. You couldn't hold a physical meeting. It was not allowed under state law last year. This year they left it up to the boards to decide, but the third option is to hold a physical meeting only. The issue with that, though, is that we've already been told by one of our board members that she will not attend, at least in the foreseeable future, any board meetings physically. She will only attend electronically. So if you did that, you would automatically be excluding one of your board members from being able to participate in the meeting. And that's not really a good option either then. So it seems like, the all Australian ballot electronic only option is the only option that is going to work in order to ensure all voter rights. We did it last year. It actually went pretty smoothly. And so you would set it up kind of the way we talked about previously, except that rather than people coming to an annual meeting, to vote in person on March 8th, they would just vote by Australian ballot on everything. So you could still have your informational meeting on March 7th, which we had discussed last meeting. Anybody that wanted to participate in that would participate electronically, and if they have a question about any of the items that are on the warning, that's their chance to ask questions. And you perform that informational meeting, and then the next day everybody casts their vote for Australian ballot, or they can vote beforehand if they choose to by absentee ballot still, if they want to forego attending the informational meeting. Of course, that's still an option. So I wanted to throw that out there, see what your thoughts were, and see if we could get an agreement as to the format of the annual meeting.
I say it went good last year. Why don't we do it the same?
Yeah, it did go pretty smooth. Sam and I talked about that, and it actually was pretty seamless. We had never run a meeting like that before. As you guys know, we do most of our voting from the floor. The only thing that the Village of Enosburg Falls typically votes for by Australian ballot is the local officials. So Board of Trustees, Moderator, Treasurer, but most of the other items are all voted from the floor through articles in the warning. So last year was the first time we ever tried to do that, and I had to say, it actually went pretty smoothly.
It seemed like Zoom, we had the capacity to handle as many people that showed up. I mean, it's usually pretty low attendance, but I would almost argue that last year we got more people involved.
Yeah, I think we actually
an
did
in-person
get a
meeting.
few more than we did at a typical physical meeting.
I think it's kind of the only real way to go.
Sounds like it's pretty much a done deal anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, to make it fair for everybody.
Did you get in touch with Pat, see if he would be willing to be our moderator again?
Oh, he will be the moderator. I did talk with him about that, but, you know, I didn't actually ask him if he was gonna run again, though. But he would still be moderator for this
For
meeting.
this one anyway.
Yeah, and so, but he would have to run to be for next year's.
Yeah. And Andy's good with all electronic?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
That's how we did it last year, so he's getting, you know, I sort of gave him a heads up on that, so he's getting prepared to, you know, be able to do that electronically.
Would you
And-
hold it similar to like we do the trustee meetings where you guys are all here or just everybody individually logging in?
Yeah, how would that work?
For the informational meeting?
Yeah,
Last year,
Last year,
everybody was actually at home.
Yeah.
I think you guys were all at home. Matt and I were down here in the office, and we were the only people that were here. Matt was running the Zoom
yep,
program, and I was speaking to, you know, the questions
Right,
that people
right.
had, but Matt was kind of running the Zoom operations in the background, and that's how we did it. So everybody, including the board members, were all just logging in from, you know, another location somewhere else.
how would that work with the annual meeting? Would we, the board, physically meet in here, or would we be on individual computers?
You would be on individual, unless you wanted to come down. But there wouldn't really be a reason for you to come down because it's just an informational meeting. You won't be taking any action or making any decisions about anything. So you could just stay home. And, you know, as I said, everybody except for the manager and the finance director was somewhere else. And the manager and the finance director were in this building just to sort of be able to communicate with each other if we needed to, and Matt was running the Zoom program for everybody in the meeting.
I'm talking for the annual meeting though. Because if we all met here, then wouldn't it kind of be a hybrid meeting?
Well, there wouldn't be an annual meeting, so.
Oh, right, it'd be Australian Valley. Yeah, yeah.
Right, so the way it works is you would have the informational meeting the night before, and that sort of serves as like the annual meeting. That's people's opportunity to ask any questions about what's gonna be voted on that they want to. But then the next day, which would typically be the annual meeting, you wouldn't have an annual meeting, it would just be people would go vote by Australian ballot.
I felt like we had an annual meeting last year.
No, we just,
Pat was in there,
he was at the informational meeting, I think, but not, we didn't have.
acting as moderator?
Yeah, as I recall, he was, sort of going through the,
All the articles.
yeah, the warning, and, you know, just asking questions, asking if there were questions from those in attendance. Matt and I were answering the questions that were asked, and we had like one or two little slides. I think we had a little slideshow on the article that had to do with the road paving project. Yeah, and that was it. But there wasn't a second annual meeting after the informational meeting, and that's how you do it. There's some communities that's how they do it every year, actually. They do everything by Australian ballot, not electronically. That's the catch with this, is because of the pandemic, you know, people are doing things electronically, but there are quite a few municipalities across the state that do everything by Australian ballot every year. So for those communities that hold their annual meeting that way, this is how they do it. They have an informational meeting the night before. then the next day, you go cast your ballot, your Australian ballot, at the voting booth, and that's how they do it every year.
Cuts down on the vegetable throwing.
What's that?
I said it cuts down on the vegetable
Yeah,
throwing.
that's right. Yeah.
Do we have an agreement then, all electronic
Yeah.
or Australian ballot? Okay.
Okay. Very good. So I will,
Voting's
We're
still
good.
taking place at public.
EMS building?
Yeah.
The voting itself?
The voting
the
still.
voting will,
Okay.
yes. So I'll call Billy Joe and let her know we're canceling the annual meeting itself, but we still need the space for March 8th in order to hold the elections. Because you still have to provide a physical voting place, because some people may, they may want to wait until March 8th after attending the informational meeting and go in and physically cast their ballot. Some people may choose to vote beforehand by absentee ballot, and that's their choice to do it that way too, if they would prefer.
Is the town doing electronic?
Yeah, so we did hear from the town of Enosburg and also the town of Bakersfield, and they both told us that they're also doing it electronically, Australian ballot vote, at both the town of Enosburg and Bakersfield.
And when do you need to have the warning finalized? You say next Tuesday?
Yeah, drop dead date, we've gotta have everything set for budget, warning, everything next Tuesday. I've gotta have the warning to the messenger in order to be published in the newspaper for Friday's edition by the end of Wednesday, next Wednesday. So drop dead for everything is
You get it done.
is next Tuesday. We've got to have everything sorted in both the budget and the annual meeting.
I take it we're gonna have a meeting next Tuesday then?
Well, that's up to you guys and how far we get with things tonight. But yeah, at the end of this discussion on this agenda item, I will ask that question. So do you guys want to hold another special meeting next Tuesday? But it's very possible we may need to.
Right, cause we don't, well, we can approve it, the digger truck, but we don't have a number for it. Not
It
like
doesn't
that.
have to go.
And it doesn't need to go before.
Right, we don't-
We don't have to worry about that for the budget. So
Yeah, the digger truck, you could, as I said, you could
We can push that
wait.
off.
You could wait actually, till sometime later in the year if you wanted to.
We just had a price genie,
I don't know if I-
knowing which way it's gonna go.
Done some work on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna go through a number of different things in here, but, I mean, if you want, you can bring up the plow truck now, if that's what, are you antsy on that?
No, I just didn't know what that was doing,
Yeah. Well, we can bring that up since you did.
Is this the one that starts
Another-
with this one?
Yeah.
Another item that we still had kind of hanging out there was plow truck for Public Works Department. And Kenny had been instructed to do some more research for you guys, look into another option with Western Star, I believe it was.
Right.
And he's been working over the past several days to try and get some more information put together for you guys, which I think you guys have a copy of. Kenny, you wanna elaborate a little bit more on that subject?
Well, mainly just the bodies are the only difference. Viking is the only body company that is actually out there right now, unless you want to go to HP Fairfield or Hunco, which is in New Hampshire, which is going to be a little distant for us to go if we had any troubles. That's what I'm nervous about. So the body, those are all the same. Those are about 80,000 for each truck. It doesn't matter which truck it fits on. The dump body, the wing, and the plow is all the same. The chassis are what the bigger dollar amount is. They're all telling me that they are ordering trucks now, but chances are they wouldn't be here till fall time. So whether any of those trucks are specs too, which they might be, those could possibly be this fall. But there is no, there's an 8 months wait for the bodies to be put on to the chassis. So that still wouldn't put us till next springtime, midsummer, before anything would be ready, so.
So you're talking getting the truck this fall, and then, so you would have your current plow truck through this winter and next winter? If they're going by the
hopefully
timeline?
not next winter. It would be, the truck would be all set up next summer area. So,
So it would
In
be ready for the
2023.
following winter season.
yes,
You talking 2023 or 2022?
We're in 22.
be ready for
Right, you're saying
No.
23, right?
23.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I was understanding what you were saying.
Right, right. There'd be nothing, the truck would be here, but
Right.
You
the
put the
body-
body on, yeah.
and everything, they said it wouldn't be ready till next spring, to summer anyway, so.
So the spring of '23.
no.
Was there a particular one that you guys like better than the rest? For any particular reason?
I don't see why we couldn't go with either the Freightliner or the International. I know we haven't had too good luck on the motors, but those have been supposedly changed. I don't know what everybody's saying. You know, they got Detroits and they got Cummins now. A lot of them are coming through the Cummins. I don't know. They seem to be having better luck with the Cummins right now, so. I don't know.
The International's not available with Detroit though.
No.
Are they Cummins in the
Just
Internationals or
Cummins.
Navistar still?
Just the Internationals are coming.
They are now?
Yeah, yeah,
That's a plus.
yeah, yeah.
No, Max Fires.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think the Freightliner would be my top choice, International second.
You're the one that knows about trucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm just gonna listen to Sam.
Doing the same thing, Freightliner, I mean, you see a lot of them out there.
What, Western Star wasn't offering a warranty?
Yeah, they were too. They were about 15,000
For a 7 year.
for 7 years.
And that's a 7 year on the Freightliner as well?
Yes, yes. Western Star, they don't, he told me they don't have single axles chassis. What they do is they have a tandem,
Cut
they
it down.
purchase all tandems, and then they cut them down for a single axle.
That seems like such a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've already,
Yeah.
it's already had work done
I
on
think
it.
it's just a Rayco or whatever. So they're kind of a two-part. Anyway, I wonder what to do with the front axle at that point.
Yeah. Where does that money go to, you know, do they?
Got a
they
whole parking lot
use
full
it
of front
somewhere?
axles?
I'm sure it doesn't come back to you.
No. no.
Yeah, that's strange. And they're
20 grand.
20,000 over everyone else.
Yeah.
Right, right. I would not have a problem with a Freightliner whatsoever.
I think I'm leaning that way. Internationals kind of burn me. The public would still have to vote on this, correct?
Yeah, that would have to go to public vote. So we would need to, if you wanted to do that this year, we would need to have an approval from the board. That would be, one of the items that would be voted on by Australian ballot.
But it would just be presented as which one of these it was gonna be, and they could say yes or no.
Well, I would
They don't get to
suggest,
pick a truck.
right, I would suggest you just pick a dollar amount
Yeah.
up to,
Not to exceed.
Right.
So
Right.
just to be clear though, an arrival date of spring of 2023
Yeah,
is what you're
so that would not actually
It wouldn't
hit
even-
this year's budget.
Right, that's the thing. So
right, but in order to order it,
Yeah.
you would need approval.
Oh, right.
Or
From
we'd
the
be getting
pump.
it in '24.
Right. And it wouldn't hit the tax rate for, maybe another 2 years, but in order to put the order in to get the truck, you would still need the public vote.
How solid are these prices? as far as if we order now, I know you got, for like the Freightliner, it's just under 180. That, are we locked into that if we tell them, yes, go ahead and order it, or are they gonna hit us down there? My concern would be the dollar amount that
Right,
we're
yeah.
approving, as we saw with the digger truck. Did they say anything on how long these quotes are gonna be
They,
effective?
they didn't say exactly how long.
But if we order the truck, you're locked
Should be locked
into,
into that price.
They said they would put your, Village of Enosburg name, you sign a cover letter, and that would be the dollar amount.
We'll hold them to it.
So we're
180.
really with the extended warranty, we're at like 195.
195.
Yeah.
Is there like sales tax and stuff on that too?
No tax.
Well,
I
no
know,
tax
I
for
know.
municipalities.
Yeah,
Right.
And I would assume they would have factored if there was any other fees into whatever they.
Dock
provided
fees
for you.
and
What would like do with the discount?
Tax title, right?
Dealer prep.
Keep in mind too, this isn't including a trade-in, so,
And it's
Is it not?
possible they could
Including
be
a trade-in.
municipal discount.
right.
Oh, yeah,
I think
so
that
there's,
was-
That
Might
number
get
will
There's a
probably
cushion.
compare.
dollar or two there somewhere.
Did they say anything about needing to do a down payment just because it's so far out to physically get the truck, or just signing the cover letter is enough for what they need?
Yes, yes.
So
so
it
we're
looks like
comfortable with the 195 number?
the 195
I
on
guess from an accounting
Freightliner.
standpoint,
And that's our total.
With the warranty.
Yeah.
yes, with, yeah. We're gonna-
I think we should go with the 7-year.
Yeah. My, I guess, vision of this is to kind of get a 7-year rotation out of
Right.
everything. And
When the warranty's coming up.
when the
give
warranty's
another
up, you
Yeah.
can plan for it, budget
Plan-
it, and
plan
then your
ahead
truck is
for-
still worth something because,
Yep.
it's been under warranty and it should be
Somebody
mechanically
should
good
want
to
it.
go. So
We
hopefully
need to-
higher trade-in values and,
Right, and that does not include the trade.
Right.
So at that time, I don't know if they could give me an exact trade-in value of that.
they're not gonna be getting it until spring.
Right, especially
Right.
if
You're not gonna be getting it for another year, so
Right.
have them check it out now and give you a.
It's gonna look just like
Yeah,
this.
just fine.
Won't change a bit.
So yeah, I would say knowing that we're gonna have the trade-in, and if there's a possible municipal discount, I would do the one, I think we'd be fine with the.
195, yeah, it'll give us a little buffer anyway.
Now, do we also have to state the term?
Yeah, it will in the article, in the warning, you'll also need to state not only the dollar amount, but the term. So Sam, you just said you were thinking like every 7 years you wanna get into a cycle where we're turning these vehicles over. So obviously you don't wanna be paying for the vehicle if you're planning on, trading it in.
Yeah.
So is that what you guys wanna do? Do you wanna set the term on this for 7 years?
Yeah, I would say no more than 7 years,
No.
that way we wouldn't be rolling anything over, but, from an accounting standpoint, is it any more difficult to do a 6 or a 5? Cause if timelines don't add up, a 6-year, we'd be free and
No.
clear, we wouldn't have to,
It-
pay on the last truck to
Typically,
free
we
that
let
up.
them know what we want for the term.
Yeah, the only thing that would change is if you shortened it to 1 year, and, it's, because we're gonna do it would, if we were actually having like a normal physical meeting, there is another nuance to this where it could change. If you did the term for 5 years or less, you could vote for it from the floor. We're not doing it that way, though. We've already agreed, we're gonna do everything Australian ballot electronically, so we're gonna vote by Australian ballot anyway. Under normal state statutes, under normal conditions, without the pandemic, Australian, you wouldn't have to vote for an item like this by Australian ballot, unless it was over 5 years that you were financing it for. But in this case, it's irrelevant, because we're gonna vote everything Australian ballot anyway. So if you wanna do 5 years, or 6 years, or 7 years, it's really all, the format in which we're gonna vote on it is all gonna be the same.
I feel like 6 is pretty safe.
That way, if we're, 6 years and 10 months and our new
Right.
truck shows up,
We're not rolling over.
Right.
we wouldn't have
balance.
to have
Don't
that
have to eat as much.
payoff and whatnot. Yeah, if somebody offers a 6-year, I'm fine with either 6 or 7. 'Cause I mean,
Right.
it could go the other way too. We could have a new truck 8 years down the road, and you know, if it goes all summer without warranty, whatever.
So do you wanna set it up at 6 then? Or do you wanna do 7?
I'm okay with either. I think 6 sounds fine.
I think 6 is good.
Okay, so 6,
Even numbers.
6-year term, 195,
I hate odd numbers.
okay. And remember, that won't hit the tax rate
Right.
until we receive the vehicle and have accepted possession of it. Okay, so Kenny, anything more
Oh,
you wanted to add on that?
no, don't do so.
Okay, so it sounds like there's agreement from the board, set that up, we'll get that in as part of the warning. Let's see. The next thing, well, why don't we talk about, a letter that came to us on Friday afternoon. This isn't necessarily gonna impact the budget, but I was just real quickly talking to Sam before the meeting started. Didn't have this specifically on the agenda because we already had the agenda posted at the time we got this letter from the town. But hopefully everybody got a copy of this. We put it in all the board members' boxes. This is from the town of Enosburg. From the town select board to you guys as the board of trustees. And I guess I can just read it. We as the town of Enosburg Select Board are writing to formally request an amount from your ARPA funds to help cover the increase in the ambulance service per capita amount billed to us by the service. The last 2 years have been extremely difficult for the service with the challenges of manpower shortages along with loss of calls as some were too scared of COVID-19 to go to the hospital by ambulance for fear of catching the virus. Since the state of Vermont decided to base their formula on ARPA funds distribution by population, we felt it necessary to ask for a portion of your funds to help cover the village portion of the increase. The town will be paying their portion of the increase with ARPA funds. This is an allowed expense and can be verified with Kate Buckley at VLCT. The total increase for the per capita contract from 2021 to 2026 is $24,757.60. We are hoping that the village would pay for approximately half of the increase. If you would like to discuss this further, please contact Billy Joe at the town clerk's office or any board member from the select board if you have further questions. Regards, Town of Enosburg Select Board. So they're asking for the village to take part of our ARPA fund designation and use it to cover half of the cost increase on the town's ambulance service. So that would be what, approximately 12,000,
$378.80.
there you go.
Seems like since the ARPA funds are done per capita, our population is less than their population.
Yeah, theirs
so-
is,
And their
last on the website,
population-
theirs was 2810 and ours was 1402.
And their population is also based on the village's population.
Wait, how does that work?
It's
Do they
not
get
like-
money for us too?
That's my one criticism about this, is they are, again, acting as if the village is separate from the town, and it's not.
So they got
Their
their,
population includes the village's population, so their ARPA donations included, you know, on
Our
a
numbers.
per capita basis, the
Yep.
village's population as well. Plus the fact that this is a town service, and our taxpayers in the village also pay into the taxes to support the
Right,
ambulance
It's
service.
not like the village of Enosburg has a contract with the ambulance
No,
service,
it's a
No.
town service.
because we're already paying for it, because
Yeah.
we're already in.
And they're asking for a big increase for
Little
all the other towns. I mean,
Double taxation there.
Does the town own the ambulance service? I know this is probably a stupid question, but
I think so.
Yeah.
it's not an outside.
No,
No,
it's not.
no,
They're
it's the
town
town.
employees.
I keep saying the service. I didn't know if it was.
Cause I hit us,
Towns.
having Bakersfield, they want a real big increase for us. And we're kind of balking on it too, cause it's a lot of money.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, I'm very sympathetic, of course, to the financial situation that they're in, and I understand it's been difficult
But the
trying to
fact-
run fire and rescue services over the last couple of years because of the pandemic and everything that it's done to, you know, the job market, the fear that it's put into our society as a whole. But, you know, looking at it from a strictly financial perspective, it's difficult for me to see the justification that they're trying to make.
They already got paid for our residents from ARPA.
Yeah, and our residents pay into the taxes as
Right.
well to support the ambulance service.
Would this be an appropriate thing for the village residents to vote on, since it's over $5,000?
I don't think it even needs to go to the voters.
Yeah, I mean,
Doesn't need to go that far?
in
I don't think we
reality,
should.
in trying to
Not
look
all
at
about
it from the other perspective, being the devil's advocate for the town, you know, I know that from their standpoint, they're probably gonna say, well, what does it matter to you? These aren't actually village funds, these are federal funds that were given to you. So you're not actually, you know, taking anything away from.
Unless we have other projects we want to use it for.
Right, but that's the counterpoint to that is, well, yes, you're right, they're federal dollars, but they were given to us for us to be able to use in the village somewhere. So everything we give to you, the town, is less that we can use in some other village type project.
What's gonna happen in 2026 when the ARPA funds are dried up, their contract still increases? Are they still
Yeah,
gonna
what
ask
happens
us again
then?
since we gave it to them last time?
Well, you're right, that's a good point, is that in the long run, what they're proposing is not sustainable. It's just not sustainable unless they plan to keep coming back to the
To be
village.
subsidized
Right,
every
year
year
after
after that.
year, and if that's the case, then that's not really a town service
Mm-hmm.
anymore, then it's a town and village service.
Which
If-
they've also, I guess, kinda put that idea forward with the sheriff's contract as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it's a step backwards.
So I
I didn't get excited.
I didn't know if this is something you guys wanted to get into tonight or not, but, you know, we got this letter Friday afternoon, and I thought I would at least get it out there and see if you guys wanted to make a decision tonight about it, or whether you wanted to punt this until the February 8th meeting and talk about it then. It doesn't really, because they're asking this to come out of the ARPA funds, not the village budget itself, it doesn't really impact our budget. If you decided to make a decision about it later, we could still move forward with, you know, all of the other budget items. But if you want to get into it tonight and make a decision about it tonight, that's fine too.
Personally, I'm comfortable saying no.
I wish Gary didn't just walk out. I wanted to know if they asked
He's still out in
Bakersfield
the hall.
for ARPA funds or just an
He's coming
increase?
back.
I think they just increased their contract, or.
Gary, did the Enosburg town ask Bakersfield town for any ARPA funds?
No, they just asked for they're asking for an increase of their contract.
Okay.
An increase of like $30-something per capita or something like that.
Ellen has something.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you can do math. You don't have to give them the whole thing. You could say you can have 3,000 or you can have 4. You don't have to say 12,000. Seems like so much. I mean, it's not. You don't have to give them the whole thing.
Right, we can even
That's all I'm
think about it like they give 2/3, we give 1/3 because they already got money for our entire population as well as their entire population. So there's two portions in
Yeah.
which we would.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
feel
I
more
don't-
than a quarter
I don't know.
is
it's-
appropriate. Not 25 cents, but a quarter of what they're asking for.
Oh, I thought you meant 25
Yeah,
cents.
well,
What a big
that thought crossed my
nice
mind this
contributor.
afternoon.
Make a check out to the town for 25 cents.
I just looked at it as even if we thought it's something that we should do to help, that it wasn't a fair split. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I don't know. I think this is an odd request. If we wanna move it to next meeting, I'll see if I can get a hold of somebody over on the select board and see exactly what they're thinking.
Okay.
And why they're
Because
thinking.
I'm not happy with this figure at all.
Okay. So I guess short-term answer, no.
Okay, and do you want me to put it on the agenda for the February 8th meeting, or do you want to talk with some select board members first?
Let's leave it out of the February 8th for now until I talk to them, and if,
Okay,
you know.
so I'll wait to hear back from you.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. Moving along then, another item that is still kind of hanging out there, we need to get resolved is the Maple Park water and wastewater line issues. You guys will recall that last meeting, Brian Ovitt, chief operator for our wastewater plant, had brought up some concerns about repaving Maple Park this year due to underground infrastructure, water and wastewater lines that may or may not be in the greatest shape. We're not totally sure yet, but we had been planning on cameraing the wastewater lines during the summer and then making a determination as to their condition and whether they needed to be replaced or not going forward. And so it seemed like, you know, maybe we should try and do that with water lines as well, postpone the paving until 2023 and do the camera work in 2022 and see what that comes back as. So Gary had made some contact with Wayne Elliott, who is our, actually I've got copies. Do you guys want to see copies of some of the correspondence?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3,
Love paper.
4. And hand those down, Sam. Gary had made contact with Wayne Elliott from Aldrich and Elliott Engineering, who does all of our engineering for our water and wastewater systems, and asked him about the possibility of doing something like this for water in particular. You guys may recall Gary had some concerns about whether you could actually camera water lines. I thought there was a way to do it, if not by camera, maybe by percussion, because you know, we've called in rural water before when we were trying to identify water leaks in the system somewhere, and they have like a, I don't understand the technology totally, and I admit that, but they have
It's a sound ray.
yeah, it's like some kind of sonar system that they can help you to pinpoint, not exactly, but at least a pretty close general area if you've got a leak in your water line system. I thought maybe they could use something like that. But apparently it isn't possible in this case. And so it's sort of, you know, it's sort of all or nothing. You dig up the line and take a look at it and determine whether you're gonna replace it or not, but if you dug it up, you might as well replace it, you know, so it's kind of, regarding the water line part of it, it's, you know, there doesn't seem to be a really good system for that, so, so maybe, you know, what we do is see what the camera work comes back as, and then based on that, at the end of that work, like maybe end of summer or fall of this year, you guys can take up the discussion about what you want to do with the water lines. Do you want to spend the money to replace the water lines, or do you want to, you know, take a chance, leave them in there, just do wastewater line work if it comes back that we need to
I
do
mean,
it?
we paved over old lines on Lower Church, we paved over old lines on Salem Street. We have paved over old lines because a lot of our system is old lines. Lower Missisquoi we did last year that had old lines, part of Pleasant Street had old lines. we're only gonna be overlaying, it's not like a big money thing, we're redoing the whole street, we're overlaying it with 1.5 inch of asphalt. We haven't had a lot of leaks or problems on that street right now, I mean, there's what, 8, 9 houses on there?
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying is, we have paved over old lines in the last 3 to 4 years, because we do have a lot of old lines in the village.
Yeah, but it does still make sense, I think, to
Right,
do
I
the
mean, if you
camera
wanna-
work
Oh, yeah.
for the wastewater and see what that looks like. You know, so I guess the recommendation that staff is making is go ahead, do the camera work this year for what you can on the wastewater lines. And then once that's completed in either the summer or fall of this year, you'll have to come back and revisit the issue about what you want to do with the water lines with the intent of doing the paving in 2023 and then replacing whatever lines you could decide
Right.
at that point.
From a budget standpoint, I mean, we're only talking 10 to 12,000, so that can be taken out of the water operating
Yeah, but
reserves.
that's just for engineering, look at that.
Oh, for engineering.
Engineering and
Construction
design.
costs are over
Oh.
100,000.
Then it goes
I thought it was replacement of 4-inch water line is 10 to 12,
No,
and
that's just engineering.
installation of 8-inch
So
is,
you can't do an 8 inch stand because it's only being fed by a 4 inch.
I was gonna say, that doesn't make any sense. I thought there were two different numbers, 4 and an 8. And I was like, whoa, 8's a lot more than 4.
I saw the first two, but that 10 and 12,000 is the engineering and the,
Permits.
Yeah, it says budget estimate for design and permitting,
That's the
it's
4.
10 to
And
12,000.
then construction
then
is,
I went back, I said, well, I told Wayne, I said, well, it's only being fed by a 4 inch off of Church Street, so you really can't put an 8 inch on Macon Park because you won't.
for 9 houses.
Going pressure. Only you can do it is if you put all new line down Church Street and then put 8 inch around there. You do something about fire protection.
But, right, but the thing is, you're now talking about a project that wouldn't happen for a year from
Right.
now. And as we all know, as we've been discussing tonight, with the rate of inflation and what it's doing to construction materials, whatever Wayne gave us for construction costs today may not be valid a year from
That
now.
won't be.
More like
So,
400 to 575.
right, so I think, you know, again, the thing to do is revisit the issue, you know, in the fall, and then figure out, you know, how far you wanna go. Do you wanna replace all those water lines or not? Or do you wanna just pave over them and, you know, take the chance? And you'll have to make that discussion. But if you do decide you wanna replace them, that's the time to re-engage Wayne when you get closer to actually making a decision on a construction cost, and then get revised numbers from him. Cause getting them now, it's not gonna be valid, you know, in a year. It just won't be.
That's not valid in 6 months.
Right.
What was the quote for an overlay on the church?
40-something thousand.
So it's kind of small peanuts compared to the project of an estimated 225, 250.
Like 40.
So worst case scenario, that line breaks and it breaks again and again and again and again, and that road is mainly comprised of cold patch at this point, 10 years down the road. When we revisit this project, we could repave that.
Yeah, I mean, we're now, all we're doing is, well, originally it was only over 8 inch and a half, was like 40 or 42,000. It wasn't that
Yeah.
big a deal.
Okay.
It was 45.
And it's not like there's
Within the
a
40.
high volume of high-speed traffic. If, you know, worst case scenario, we do have to put cold patch in, that really wouldn't be.
On the south side of that Maple Park is all basically in the grass.
So you wouldn't need to do anything.
On that side.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I guess unless we discover something severe when we dig it up, I don't
think we've had any problems with that since I've been here. We haven't had any really kind of main, I mean, it's mostly been services that are.
We've had a couple, but
Not since I've been here.
no.
So does that sound agreeable to everyone? So we're just, the only cost we'll have for that in 2022 then is just getting the camera work done for wastewater, and that's it. And we're gonna postpone everything else till sometime in 2023. But you guys should take this up after the camera work is done, and then decide how far you wanna go with the water replacement. Okay, very good. Let's see. I have also a draft of the trustees' village annual report. Can I give you guys a copy of this and you guys take a minute to peruse it and let me know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me know, if you could, whether you would like something changed in this. if you're okay with this, then I've got an original. I can have you guys sign here, and then we can add that to the annual report as well.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, good one, guys.
Night, Kay.
Right.
Looks good to me.
You guys okay with that? Okay, I've got an original then, if everyone's all right with it. If you don't mind signing, and we'll get that added to the annual report.
Boy, I gotta make this one look good. It's going in the book.
That's right, this is the real deal here.
Yeah, I already messed it up.
It'll be more authentic that way.
Maybe people think I'm a doctor or something. Our water and wastewater budget's almost ready to be set?
Yeah,
Well, I have to see you guys approve those, but these-
right, once we get through some of these other things, I'm gonna come back and we'll go through very quickly all the other, parts of the budget and see if you guys have any other questions, and if we could get approval on, at least 2 or 3 of these, that would be great. I realize we're probably gonna have to have another meeting next Tuesday to finalize, some things that are maybe not gonna have answers. We'll find out once we get through the end of the budget discussion tonight.
Okay.
Is that an owl noise?
Somebody feed it.
It's the owl.
Yeah,
For some reason, we just lost the video, but we're still recording. I think.
Or just have a coffin.
Oh, it's because the start video on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't want to pollute you.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough.
Maybe?
Oh, good, we got a picture of the owl.
Hey, look at that.
Hey, so how's your paying attention to
I'm like an IT guy now.
Careful, he doesn't pull his after you.
I'm done.
Oh, I didn't pay attention.
oh,
I'm so broke I can't afford to pay
Oh,
attention.
yeah, I understand.
before I forget, this isn't really thank you, Sam. And I'll get this to you then for the annual report, because that's the trustees report. You'll have to track down Heather
Yep.
to get a signature from her. Before I forget, this isn't really a budget item, but I don't wanna forget this, so maybe we can have a quick discussion about it. You remember Abby shared with you guys last week that there was a state meeting being held to, take a look at the Franklin Foods Digester project, so proposed, and take any public comment on that. So we did have 3 different staff members from the village attend that. Abby was one of them, Gary was also there, and Brian Ovitt from Wastewater Services was also there. Do you want to fill the board in, Abby, on
Yep.
what your remarks and concerns were?
It was Dave Westcomb from the Light Department was with us, not Gary, but
Oh,
we did go
sorry.
to the actual site visit and then went over the plan. kind of what they're proposing, where, the effects. And then we did come back here and attend the informational meeting. The questions and concerns that we have haven't really changed from the beginning. One of the questions that both Brian and myself asked was, what happens in the event that the digester is down, whether it's routine maintenance or cleaning or just something happens to it? Because they are removing the current system, the DAF system that's in place right now, which is what separates the solids and the liquids, and we get, majority of the liquids come to us and they truck out the solids to various places. They had essentially said that they would revert back to the old process, but then I'm not sure how that's possible because they're removing the DAF. So that's a concern, is what happens if the digester's down. Are we gonna get inundated with all the solids and stuff that we don't normally get, or are they just gonna truck it out? So that's a concern. The other big concern is our phosphorus, nitrogen, and ammonia levels. It doesn't seem like they have done anything further to address the wastewater discharge side of it. From when we initially submitted those concerns to them when this project came out. So due to that, and Brian actually stayed behind after and had a one-on-one conversation with Eric Fitch from Purpose Energy, and they haven't gotten any farther or really dived into looking into any of that yet. So the concern at this point is those levels. Are we gonna be able to sustain the type of waste that they are sending to us, the cost of that? So it is in my opinion, and I know Brian and Dave are in agreement with it, that we file an intervention, which needs to happen by Friday. So if you guys are on board with those concerns and support, I know like John has expressed that you guys kind of have the final say on this project, but I feel to kind of follow as a part of the process and become an official party in this, because we're not listed as an official party, that we really should file the intervention and go through the process and try to get them to answer these questions, rather than waiting until the last minute and being like, no, we're just not gonna do it, but to try to work through the whole process. But there's some serious concerns there on our end as far as what our plant can handle the process to stay within our guidelines that are set from the state for some of these levels for the discharge, because there is a concern about what's gonna come down the pipe literally to us.
So if we file an intervention, it's not us trying to stop them, it's just us getting involved as a third party?
Yeah, you're requesting a specific status with the state, the ability to communicate with the state and the applicants to, insert yourself in the process, whether the applicant wants you there or not, and try to attempt to resolve issues.
It's rather important to have those answers.
Yeah, as I said, all of the issues that Abby has brought up to you guys are all related to wastewater. These are not new to us. Over a year ago, we sent in writing these concerns to Franklin Foods and Purpose Energy. And they're aware that, we have had very serious concerns about the level of waste product that they're suggesting they may send down to our treatment facility. That hasn't gone away. So all we really discovered there was they haven't really done anything to resolve those issues. Those issues are still on the table. As a board of trustees, and this is related to what Abby was saying and what I told you last week about this subject, as a board of trustees, you have final say over any allocations that are or are not awarded to any project or potential customer within our wastewater system. The state can't take that right away from you. So when Abby said, John had brought up that you guys have the final card, that's what she was getting at, is that, they still have to come back to you and ask you for a certain number of allocations for our wastewater system when they are ready to start building that digester. I mean, they need to get that in place before they can start construction. So, that's still your purview 100%, and nobody can take that away from you. You have absolute domain over the allocation issue to our plant. But I think what Abby's getting at is maybe it's better to be a little bit more proactive at this point, since we now know that they really haven't done anything to resolve those wastewater issues, and rather than sitting back and waiting for them to, whenever, 2 months, 3 months from now, come in and say, oh, we want X amount of allocations, and then having to start getting into that conversation at that point with them. Maybe it might be more proactive to insert ourselves in the process now and force them to start talking about these issues.
They will have to go through a permitting process with the state as well, as far as the discharge. And per my conversation with Brian about that today, the state tends to cooperate fully with the municipality.
Kind of have to.
They do decide with kind of what the municipality, because we have standards that we have to abide by for what some of our levels are. And so that kind of is another kind of safety checkpoint for us to make sure we work with them. But I do strongly agree that we need to file this intervention now and get the conversation started rather than waiting until the end of this process, because there's a lot of people's time, money, and resources involved in this project. So like John said, the more proactive we can be from the beginning, I think is better, and I think it would be in our best interest to file something. And Brian has reached out to Wayne Elliott to kind of get his opinion on this as well. I'm not sure if he heard back from him today. Last I talked to him, he was waiting for a call back today. But this is something that I would need to get the ball rolling rather quickly, and I'm trying to get my ducks in a row today a little bit with this. So obviously it's the board's decision at the end of the day if we move forward with the intervention. And if in doing so, we have to do it by Friday, but that's something we can all do in-house once you give us the blessing.
No,
I was here
agree.
last night for the meeting too, and Brian is definitely on board with the whole intervention thing.
Yeah, he has.
I am too.
Some
Like,
valid, very
listening to
valid.
what everybody had to say.
I think it's important to get involved to see if we can work with them, with
Yeah.
the engineers, with the state, rather than just sit here and then tell them no and
An interesting.
when they do
You
all that
shouldn't
stuff.
Right,
Just be
right.
like, nah, we don't like that.
Well, there's an interesting bullet point in one of the projections they showed that said the village of Enosburg was very difficult to work with.
Yeah, that was on his PowerPoint from 2018 that they from Purpose Energy had put together. He pulled that PowerPoint up, and it was what, the second?
The second bullet
as
point,
part
I
of
think.
The reasoning
I
for
took a
why
picture of
they're
it.
doing the digester project is because that the village of Enosburg Falls has been very difficult to work with.
I'm
So-
sorry that our capacity
Yeah.
is not up
Second
not
bullet
up
point.
to standards.
Yeah, that was second.
You can take that up with the state
But
when
there
stuff goes in the
are
river.
other municipalities that some of their digesters feed off to. It sounds like Purpose Energy has several digesters in the Chittenden County area with breweries. And I believe there's one in St. Albans, or they're in the works for one in St. Albans down near the Ben and Jerry's plant. So I don't know if they have one that's specifically like what would be installed with the type of material coming through from Franklin Foods. So there are a couple municipalities that we could also probably reach out to. I believe he said Shelburne was one.
Middlebury.
Barnett. Was it Barnett? Did he say Barnett, or am I?
I don't remember.
Maybe it was Middlebury's. So
Middlebury
there's-
was the
there's
one
a
that looked
couple-
like a barn, I think. It was in Middlebury.
Oh, maybe.
I think so.
Maybe. But
They
there's
built the
a,
building to look like an old barn.
Yeah, they're gonna try to-
Staples.
so there are a couple other municipalities that we could potentially reach out to on this. I don't know that it's the same kind of chemical makeup and essence of what is being discharged, but just
What's
to
being
get.
digested and
Yeah.
what's left over.
Exactly. But there are a couple options out there that we can also reach out to if the board chooses to, or Brian or I or somebody can also reach out to, so.
I found it interesting that they said that it was going to be very quiet, and
Is it a methane
So when
digestion?
we were,
Yeah.
when
So they're gonna
we,
have a generator station too.
yeah.
so when we
And
were
those motors
standing
are
out
loud.
there, they said that it wasn't gonna be any louder than, I believe, the agitators that we could hear while we were standing outside, because there were homeowners in the area that were there, and that was one of the concerns that was brought up. But there was no discussion at that point about the generators until later on in the informational meeting, which no homeowners were in attendance of. So I'm not
There's one right
sure,
up there.
but they had to do decibel,
She wasn't there last night.
they had to do, decibel tests or whatever, and they said on the boundary of the property, it was like 43. So they're still well under the range is what they stated at the meeting. So supposedly this is not gonna be loud, or than what they already have.
Supposedly.
Right.
Yeah.
But Dave Wescombe didn't have any major concerns on the electrical side of it. We should have minimal impact with this because they are looking to power it off of their generators, and eventually, I believe they're on kind of a 5-year plan to use some of the thermal mass that they're creating from this to heat the plant, or to put it back into the plant. So they have kind of a long-term plan with this, but
They
there
can't
shouldn't-
use the thermal energy for 5 years because it'll wreck their tax credits.
Yeah, they have some
For
5-year
some reason.
tax credit.
I'm assuming their energy generation will go back into Enosburg's transmission line.
Yeah, it goes on.
Net metering or whatever.
Yeah, but it has to do
Something
with depending upon how much the plant is using, like if they're using over or less, but essentially, at the end of the day, yes, it
Just
goes,
to,
it
yeah,
goes
to
back.
help offset their energy.
Correct.
It's a net metering system, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're only gonna file an intervention for the water department, or is it just the village as a whole?
it's just the village as a whole, but our main concerns right now are
Water,
focused
not
on
wastewater.
wastewater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, do we need a motion for that?
probably be good, yeah.
I need a motion to authorize staff to file for a intervention
yep.
Sounds like a drill.
for the Franklin
Aye.
Foods digester project.
I move that we have the intervention with the Franklin Foods project.
Second.
Danny with the first, Eli with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, that's
Change the way that
unanimous.
draft is filed.
Okay.
ASAP.
Yeah, as Abby said, that's gotta be done by Friday, so we've gotta put that on the hot button. I think that's like the end of the specific items I wanted to get through under budget stuff, but why don't we still need to take some time to go through each of the funds again. You've got new drafts in front of you, and hopefully we can maybe get at least 2, if not 3 of these approved and put to rest, realizing we may still have to have another special meeting next week to deal with some other residual issues. So, general fund,
That one's probably the one that's in the worst shape.
I would agree.
So
All
I mean,
things considered.
if for the first ones, maybe we should look at the 3 that are very
Easier
close.
ones?
Okay, all right, yeah,
All
okay.
right, we'll set the toughie aside.
All right,
Right.
well,
Typically, we knock water and wastewater out of the way.
Water
Yeah.
and wastewater are pretty well set. The only changes are gonna be in relation to the phone after our discussion last week.
Yep.
Those numbers have been adjusted, and I was able to get the depreciation schedule, so that number has been adjusted. Other than that, there's no other changes, so it's still, there's, within maybe a couple $100, $200 overall changes, so nothing really drastic has happened with either of those.
And our water project on Church Street that doesn't. need to
Wait,
be
that,
included.
yeah, that would be
Right.
till
Impacting
2023
anything.
if we're gonna do
Yeah.
it.
But we're not doing any scoping or anything this year, anyway,
Right.
so. Okay, so water looks good. I will hear a motion to accept it, draft number 3.
Move.
I'll make
Eli
the
with the
motion.
first, Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Put a check mark on that one.
Okay, wastewater.
Smiley face. Sorry.
So wastewater is about the same, no major changes.
Same thing, just an update to the phone line per the last conversation, and then the depreciation, and nothing else has been changed per the last time you guys reviewed it.
Still healthy.
Yep.
All right, that's good news. I will hear a motion to approve wastewater fund draft number 3.
Move we approve wastewater number 3.
Sandy with the first, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Leonard with the second, all those in favor say aye.
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 And those opposed, nay. All right, shall we move on to electric?
Why not?
Yeah,
there's some questions with electric, I believe.
Well, electric kinda is what it is. We had a discussion earlier tonight about the digger truck. And I think you guys will take that up once we get some more concrete numbers about what the digger truck is gonna end up costing. No, I mean, there are some smaller end items that relate to what Abby and Sanders shared expenses with the phone system improvements, etc. But not a lot has really changed in this draft in the electric department. I still believe that we're probably gonna have to file for a rate increase. We are still showing a significant deficit in here, and there's really no place in the electric department that either Abby or I can point to that, is, even if you slashed and burned it, would make a significant dent in that deficit.
Of this VEPSA, the new VEPSA expenses for next year make up an increase of $300,000.
Yeah.
So they're out of our control. So like John said, he and I sat down earlier and kind of went over this and talked about it, and we could cut, maybe a few $1,000s out of it to really do it, but it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to have an impact.
Not gonna make up 300 grand.
No,
Unfortunately,
using a
no.
teaspoon.
But as John said, I think right now we have to go down the avenue of a rate increase.
So the digger truck is not included in this budget, so it's not gonna hit this one anyway.
No, there's still let's say 18 month to 2 year lead time is still the ballpark for that. So we're not looking till 2023 at the earliest. 2024 probably is more realistic for when that will hit.
Okay, so honestly, are we gonna shoot for budgeting a digger truck next year?
I don't know that I can honestly give you a yes or no on that until maybe we get a little bit closer
Okay,
to
but
that, seeing what the salesmen have to say, if anything changes.
I'm just thinking timing wise, like with all this inflation and stuff, I honestly don't know the answer what to do. To wait a year, pull the trigger on the digger truck, and I don't know if it would be wise to put it out to public vote. That way, they make the decision. But if it's going to be months and months down the road anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I believe, if I'm understanding Dave correctly, we're still looking at the 18 to 24 month time frame on getting a truck. I will clarify that with him, but my understanding
haven't heard
is
anything
I
different.
haven't heard anything different that it's gonna be any sooner than that. So you're looking at most likely the 2024
Yeah.
budget cycle.
So all in all, is there anything else that we're waiting for on the electric fund?
No.
So if it looks all right, I think we're ready to approve that, correct?
Yes.
All right, I will hear a motion to approve electric fund. Is this correct in saying that it's draft number 2?
Yes, it is.
All right, draft number 2.
Move.
Eli with the first, is there a second?
Second.
Sandy with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, that is unanimous.
No smiley face on this one.
No, it's still kind of.
Put a frowny face.
Yeah. Still had a face on that.
Yeah, I did.
Perfect, Sandy, I love it.
Okay, and then are we still waiting to include that 190? No, it wouldn't be. The plow truck wouldn't be
When it is in
included.
2023.
It wouldn't be included in the 2022
And-
budget anyway.
I have a food for thought, a couple questions
Okay.
to throw out there at you guys. I know John and I kind of had this conversation earlier, but looking at all of the special projects that we have lined up for next year, I guess my question I would pose would be, looking at the fact that we're looking at a almost 24.5% increase, do all of these projects need to happen next year? Could we hold off on anything? I mean, obviously it's your decision at the end of the day, but that's a huge
Be for this year.
increase.
Yeah. So that's one
Large.
thing, that we would throw out there just for consideration, is to go back and look at the list of special projects you have in here.
That you
and
have.
and decide whether you really need to do all those this year in 2022. The only other suggestion I have to try and reduce the increase that we're looking at as the budget is presented here is to tap into more of the reserve funds. That's not a great option either. As you guys know, we've spent over the last couple of years quite a bit of time talking about, trying to responsibly use the reserve funds in a way that would, gradually offset tax rate expenses, because we knew that, even if you did nothing else with the other expenses that we're looking at taking on due to mostly infrastructure improvements and large paving projects that we've done over the last 4 or 5 years, we were looking at around a 4% increase annually anyway. And part of the plan to offset that was to use over time, over like the next 8 years or so, some of the reserve funds to offset some of that. And we have $12,000 in this budget showing offsetting this budget here. So it'd be even worse than the 24% if we weren't using the $12,000 out of the reserve as well. The only other suggestion I have, if you really want to keep this, is to tap even more of the reserve funds. But that puts you at risk further down the road. If you use up all of the reserve funds in the next 2 or 3 years, it just means, 3 or 4 years from now, the tax rate is going to increase even more all at once. It'll just be a delayed reaction. And that'll happen 3 or 4 years out rather than now. But it's the only other thing I can think of if the board really wants to include all of the capital projects in this budget that we have listed here.
And I have one more clarifying kind of question or point out there. For the Upper Church Street sidewalk, the amount that we have budgeted here is asphalt, not the concrete.
Right.
And I don't know if that final decision really had been made either.
And it's still 45,000 even with asphalt?
The asphalt was 45, concrete was 58, I believe. I think the original.
How is it 40 grand to pave Maple Park, but it's 40 grand to put the sidewalk up?
Put in a
That number
top
doesn't make
sidewalk.
sense to me.
And
It doesn't make sense.
the other concern that has been put out there with both Gary and Ken in discussions about this is with the asphalt, you'd be looking to have to replace it more. So it may look good up front because you're saving, maybe $10,000 to $15,000
Till it doesn't last.
But you're gonna have to replace it 2 or 3 years in the lifespan.
Well, maybe, we don't really know that for sure.
Right, that's their concern that would be an issue that would happen. So, so Church Street sidewalk replacement per using unit pricing from Lower Church Street, St. Albans for the asphalt. Gary put together $45,155, and then to do concrete, it's $59,350.
I don't understand why asphalt's so much money.
It
Unless
shouldn't
it's
be.
more labor intensive.
Everyone that I've talked to about this says that it's gonna be right around a half to a third of the total cost of a poured concrete sidewalk.
That
Because all
makes
you're
more
doing-
My
sense.
figure is not that.
You're scraping all your pads up, you're leveling it out, and you're going through with a paver. I don't know if that quote is correct. I don't know if we're having a difficult time finding somebody with a small paver.
Sidewalk paper.
That was the only other thing.
Even if they did it with wheelbarrows, it wouldn't.
Yeah, 'cause I'm just re-adding up the figures.
5 foot
that
wide,
Gary
like-
has here.
I think it's 4,
Okay, 4 foot wide.
I think.
Like,
Upper Church Street, you're talking from where to where?
So it'd
like
be
from Doc Epley's house towards Pearl Street.
Towards Pearl up to,
Well, only up to Steve Como's.
Right, towards
The rest of the
Steve
sidewalk
Como's.
was thrown up,
yeah.
which made me,
Is that something that we could drop for this? No?
That sidewalk needs.
we're trying to keep this village mobile. and you can't keep a village mobile by eradicating sidewalks.
There's a lot of houses on that street, I do agree.
I
I'm not,
think,
and again, I'm not saying you have to necessarily get rid of it entirely or have that be the one that you eliminate, or you can keep it all. I just, like I said.
I just feel like that $45,000 number's wrong.
Yeah, I think maybe looking into the cost of that project again
Somebody should
might
double
make
check
sense
that.
by somebody. Just in case there's an
So
error.
verify, I'll have Gary verify the asphalt figures on
Because,
that.
you know, like Eli just said, you verify the cost of the church, the Maple Park thing, and then, and they just,
That's the thing, right?
Doesn't make any sense.
You're paving
Paving an entire
1,000
street.
feet, 1,067 feet of, what is it, two, 3 rod road for the same price that you're putting in.
yeah.
I don't know how many feet of sidewalk it is, but it's only 4 feet
I
wide.
don't know, yeah, I don't either, but
It's not.
not 30 something feet wide.
How many of those flashing crosswalk beacons is $14,000 worth?
Two.
So, and then there's also the 8600, which is the 2 additional speed limits, flashing speed limit signs to the 2 that we currently have. And then there's also the Pearl Street sidewalk to the new armory.
So I feel like we could, personally, I feel like we could wait on the 2 additional flashing speed limit signs.
So do I. Just keep,
Move the ones that we
we
have.
have a little more often.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the sidewalk to the armory, but we still don't even know when the town's gonna move into that space.
And it would,
There's
you also
no,
have the option, you could paint, you could do the
Right.
crosswalk for the time, for the first year essentially, and then maybe in 2023, 2024, once they're established in there, have a better idea of the foot traffic.
And we've given them a safe crosswalk so that they can easily get across and not be worried about, I mean, because it is 105. And we need to have a beacon on that one
right, so if we're getting
every
2,
now and then.
if we're getting 2, we can put one somewhere on Main Street and we can put one there because they are mobile.
Yes.
The
So instead of
flashing.
4, get 2. And
This
then
is only
take
2
two,
anyway.
take 2 of the radars out.
She just said that's just for 2.
Yeah, the 14,000 is
They're
for
$7,000 a
2.
piece.
And again, those quotes are in here, and those,
That's the crosswalk beacon.
yes, that's for the flashing crosswalk.
So I say we
I thought
can,
you were talking about the electronic speed limit signs.
Right. The radar speed signs, we're getting 2 additional.
oh yeah, I was saying do it, sorry.
And
yes.
those are the $8,600 ones.
Right.
So I'm saying we could slash 8,600, we could
By not
slash,
getting those.
right. We could, and we could ditch the 20,390 in favor of a crosswalk.
So eliminate the new sidewalk on Pearl Street,
For maybe a year, put it off for a year.
okay?
Yeah, I hate the word eliminate because we
Yeah.
really don't mean it
Yeah,
that
no,
way.
I don't wanna limit,
Right.
Well,
Postpone.
that's a big chunk.
That is the, yeah.
I mean, if you guys can agree to do that, that's a big chunk.
So just to clarify, to make sure I didn't miss anything, excuse me, we're gonna take out the 20,390 for the armory for this year and put it into a future year, along with also taking out the 8,630 for the 2 additional speed limit signs and come up on a rotation plan for the 2 that we already have.
correct.
Yes.
And then re-verify the asphalt sidewalk price because that seems
Right.
exorbitant.
Okay.
I guess the only thing that I would like to see us do with the crosswalk for Pearl Street is to be, if we can, I realized last year there was the whole there's no paint thing, to be very vigilant in keeping track of how much the paint on the crosswalk has worn. Because you'll find on a day right now when there isn't any snow on the streets that there
You can't even
ain't
tell.
nary a crosswalk in Enosburg except for a little spot of paint like this on either side of the road. And if we're going to not give them their sidewalk for a year, them meaning the whole populace, then I think that we have to be very, very diligent in how we make sure that crosswalk is maintained.
And it's definitely
So-
get one of those flashing signs there,
Yep, so,
for sure.
you know, if nothing else, so we look a little better. We need to keep them safe.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure I understand. We're going to eliminate the new sidewalk on Pearl Street, but we're gonna put in a new crosswalk from somewhere on the opposite side of the street that will connect
Right over
directly
to the-
with the armory. But you, as part of that, you want the flashing beacons.
Well,
One of the sets
I think
there.
one of them should go there,
Okay.
yes.
The other one's going to Dickinson,
Yeah.
Dickinson and Maine,
Okay,
correct?
so one on Dickinson and Main.
Because it was originally the idea of having one by the rail trail crossing.
That was one spot we were
And
talking about
Dickinson.
too.
I feel like there's more kids crossing at Dickinson, so that would be, you know, after school.
That's a very
Correct me if
dangerous
I'm wrong,
spot.
But wasn't something that Jim Cameron is working on,
Yes.
looking into, also looking into?
Enosburg Initiative is working on trying to get some funds to
So that may
get
give us
the,
options there too.
one of the quick
We
builds
don't necessarily have to
done.
pick where we put them.
Right, but.
Yeah, as long as we just say we're getting them.
Yeah, and the 14,000 was just for the two, this.
Okay.
Dennis quote.
Well, that's 20,390 on the
Almost
sidewalk.
29,000.
Here,
Right,
yeah.
and then 8,630 on the radar signs. That's, you know, that's something.
And then,
And then if we can readjust that 45, that's,
Well, we'll look into it. I don't know if, you know, if there was an error there or not, but we'll ask Gary.
It just doesn't seem logical.
To really, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
And I
the
will-
cost of materials is so crazy now in construction. I
And I'll-
don't have an answer for that.
Asked too, because I don't know if they have to do anything with a crosswalk to cut in, so I will ask Gary and Ken if we need to budget anything.
We're probably gonna have to have the steel plate with the bumps on it.
Yeah, so I will ask if there's any added cost to that, Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be 20,000.
to
No.
what is this?
For the crosswalk, just for the, armory side, if, depending on where they're putting the crosswalk, if we have to do any cutouts in the sidewalk, or
Oh.
if there's gonna be any costs associated
Yeah,
with that.
so those metal things are for
Yeah, they will.
Americans with Disabilities Act, it's for blind.
Yeah, it's gotta be handicapped
Yeah.
accessible still,
Totally
so
agree.
there will be a cost to do that. They'll have to take a chunk out on each end and put those metal,
Yeah.
metal plates in.
I'm sure that'll be significantly less than,
It
So I had
won't be
a-
20,000, no.
right,
I got a question on the wages and
Sam DeWell's one.
salaries, I guess.
yes.
Like, we talked about hiring a person for 6 months,
Yeah.
and that's 60 grand.
When you factor in the benefits, what are you meaning? 60?
Well, I just looked at the,
No, this is
Oh,
also,
that's 40.
this is the 3% that they get for their union contract, plus the addition of another person, which hiring June 1st would be an added 7 months. So you're looking at a 3% increase plus 7 months of another position.
3% of the current staffed.
Correct, sorry, yes, thank you for clarifying that.
I guess I was just comparing it to the 239, 466, what we're forecast for 21.
Right, and with a lot of this, we also, there's two things here. Like, I would like to see our taxes remain stable, because as we may be aware, Enosburg town's taxes have gone up a lot. And we all get Enosburg town tax bills
We
as
sure
well.
do.
Yeah, the other thing is we gotta. They plan on being in that armory. Or they were. Me and Heather reached out, or Heather did, I guess, a few months ago, and they were planning on being in that armory.
I know they're planning on it, but like, are they gonna be in it in November?
Right.
I don't know.
Right, and by the sounds, it doesn't sound like anything's going to plan. But is there any ARPA funds that maybe?
It was just on the tip of my tongue.
Infrastructure stuff maybe that is available?
Unfortunately, from my understanding and reading and questions that I've asked, the infrastructure component to it is more for water, wastewater, or new construction. It very specifically was asked, actually, if you could use it for like paving projects or sidewalk projects, and you can't. Obviously, if it's.
They will do roads, but they have to be brand new roads.
roads.
They can't be existing.
not a
Brand new
lot-
pedestrian roads?
There's not a lot there's not a lot for maintenance or upkeep of existing structures. They're really pushing with this new wastewater treatment centers, new municipalities offering water, but not a lot for maintenance and the upkeep of existing structures.
So what do we do if we can't find anything to use ours on?
Oh, I'm sure we can find plenty.
I'm gonna laugh like crazy in 5 years from now if there's an old bridge sitting next to a new bridge on every, because they give them money to build
Right?
it.
Yeah, I was
Dumb.
pretty disappointed even with the specific infrastructure bill, it is all geared towards new. Like, you would have to basically go before a committee essentially if you wanted to, if we needed like necessary repairs or whatever, maintenance on our wastewater, but they're giving first precedent to new.
Okay. So those, what, 3 things that we just struck is gonna
Yeah.
bring down the tax rate quite a
Not-
bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, you've got almost 29,000, although not quite, because we're gonna have to figure the cost for the handicapped accessible portion of this. I mean, it's not gonna be anything close to what we were looking at with the new sidewalk, but.
It certainly shouldn't be.
We'll have to take out, a couple sections of sidewalk and put the metal plates in. That's,
Yeah, because they're like yay by
yeah.
yay.
That's why I'm having an issue saying yes to, I mean, I'm all for upkeep and like, let's do things. That way we don't have to deal with a big surge of them 10 years from now, but I think with the amount of inflation that's happening right now, it's difficult for me to make any decisions on big spending projects.
It's a hard year to add a lot of extra projects, not saying that these projects aren't necessary, but like Sam said, with inflation and the cost of everything, it's a really hard year to add a lot of these it's kind of weighing the wants versus the need. Like,
Right.
yeah, as much as we want to do all of this year, is it really cost effective for the
Prudent.
village? Exactly, to do all of this at once, or can we kind of space it out a little bit more?
Gotta find a way to grow our grand list.
I
Get a few more
suppose.
people in here paying taxes.
That was actually my other question too. Is Tractor Supply included in this green list at all?
You know, and
We
because
can't, we wouldn't determine that would be determined by the listers, but they can't do it until they finish the project. And once the project is done, then they would do an evaluation and assessment on it, and once that's done, we can add it.
it's
onto
not
the
gonna hit
list.
until 2023.
Yeah.
Because they're not anticipating to be done the construction until the fall. So as long as it's done by April 1st of the following year, so of 2023, so it is not going to have an impact on our grant list. And outside of them eventually coming in, I don't know of anything that's gonna significantly impact our grant list for next year. As of right now, until Tractor Supply the following year, but
That'll offer some relief.
That'll it'll definitely add a little
It'll
bit onto
increase
the
the
grand list.
If the
You
Pearl
know,
block happens, is that going to give us any relief? They're paying taxes, aren't they?
And I think Jim specifically said that he wasn't gonna go out looking for tax stabilization.
No, I think
Yeah,
they're
credits.
planning on being God-fearing, tax-paying folks,
It could.
if it
I
happens.
mean, it should.
Yeah.
If they actually invest $1 million into that building, it should increase the value. But again, how much would have to be determined by the listers.
But at this point, something is certainly better than
Yeah.
not anything at all.
And a third thing that, again, it's not gonna help for this year, but, down the road in, 1 or 2, maybe 3 years, another project that could help with the grand list issue is Franklin Foods.
Yeah.
And their proposed expansion on their site, which includes the digester project as well, but there's way more to it than that. They're actually proposing on expanding the building and the site
yeah,
again,
they
so.
wanna.
How is that? It's gonna improve the grand list. I mean, we're gonna lose a little bit if they demolish those 2 houses, right?
Oh,
Well, we'll have to see. Again, the grant,
It's a lose-win.
The 2 on the
Like,
ends?
Yeah,
it's
well-
gonna
Both
work
sides of
out.
the
It's
street?
definitely gonna work out in our favor, but it's not gonna be 100% in our favor
like
because.
even with the digester
yeah.
Wiping out.
plan, there's gonna
Mr.
be a
Jewett?
building going
No.
up.
Right.
Show you, I took a picture.
I mean, you're right, Eli. There'll be, some pluses and minuses to it, but I think overall, it will
So
be
that's Wayne
a
Jones
net
lot,
gain.
and that's like the
to
old Fox
grand
Barn.
list
Used to be right here.
When Franklin.
Oh, on the
going
other side of the
away.
street.
Right, that's
Baby
going away.
Brown's
That's
barn.
gonna be a
Yeah.
parking lot.
Okay.
And then-
Yeah.
Where they come out on Pleasant Street, they're buying this house on the
Oh, the one on
corner.
the dump on the corner. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Between the,
hopefully something.
So that's
lower
Pleasant
income house
Street.
on the corner.
But-
We're
Yeah,
kind of
that's
in a
where
period
they're
right
going
now
in
where
now.
the grand list
They're
hasn't
buying
changed
that house
much.
right
I don't think
there
it's
to
changed at all
demolish
since
it.
I've been here.
It has.
This is Bates building, the
It
green
goes up and
building.
down
Here.
Yeah.
from year to year.
That's the
Last
house.
year it
If you look
actually
at it-
dropped
driveway.
Look at
slightly.
this one, Sam. Pull this one
It's
up.
a
Get
Gary
that
Rig
down.
owns it. It's a-
And if you look at it down near the bottom, you'll see
And then
from
up here,
Oh, yeah.
that's
changing
Wayne
grand
Jewett's
list.
lot.
2021.
Yeah.
So this would be like the
Yeah,
old
it
Fox
goes
Trap.
up and down.
0.5%.
Yeah.
nothing
And the house, they're gonna
major.
tear that all down and make a parking lot.
Okay,
But
not Jewett. They're
No,
not
they're
touching
not
Jewett.
touching
We're
it.
talking only
Okay.
a max swing
where
of
those little
$20,000
gray lines are,
Yeah.
like the
over the course
crosswalk,
of
that's
almost $1
what
million.
the existing building
Yeah.
is. All this light gray is what they're
It's
planning on
technically
adding.
things, unfortunately.
Right.
So they're planning a massive expansion.
But, you know,
Oh.
there's 3 projects that potentially, you know, not
That's
for this
existing, this
year,
is
not
all
for
new.
2022, but,
They're adding
you
a
know,
lot
over
of
the
square
course of the
footage.
next 2 to 3
Is that
years,
Store-
could
the storage,
collectively
the
add a
refrigerator?
fair amount
I
of
believe that's the
grand
refrigerator.
with Tractor
Yeah, that's what I
Supply,
used to,
Franklin Foods,
with the forklift.
the Pearly Block.
Right now,
project
the driveway
too.
goes through here.
Well, that's
That's
good.
there.
Driveway.
Franklin Foods
Hang
has
on
been
for one more
our,
year. Keep your head down.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
changes.
Exactly.
All right, guys. So we're waiting on more information for
We need to-
grand list,
So
right?
unfortunately, we're gonna have that February 1st meeting, sorry guys.
We're gonna have to know
Yeah.
about that asphalt,
Yeah,
Yep.
because that just seems nuts.
I guess we'll have Gary sharpen the pencil. We'll do those
Yep.
stricken things, and then
but this is, you know, if you guys will agree to this, I mean, that this is gonna help doing those 3 adjustments on the capital projects. That will definitely help bring down, it's still gonna be relatively high, I'm not gonna lie to you, we'll have to run the numbers, but that's gonna help bring that down a bit.
at least we're trying to be fiscally responsible for
Yeah.
our constituents.
So,
Sandy. So I guess this is a question geared more towards Sandy. What if that 45,155 number does stick? What then
You mean for that asphalt
for
sidewalk?
the sidewalk on Church? Because
Well, there is a sidewalk there now. It's not like there is no sidewalk and everyone has to walk in the road. You do have to be careful, because if you're not paying attention to where you're going, you could trip and fall on your nose, but we do have to pay attention in this world when we're out. If it's a number that sticks, I guess if I thought we could wait a year, I might do that.
okay.
We're gonna take some flack, but we're always gonna take flack.
You can't make everybody happy.
No, I think
That's what I came here for, flack.
if there's a year to keep our head down, it's this year.
Yeah.
The grand list hasn't changed much. There's some projects coming up next year.
Yep.
You know, the grand list hopefully will change and.
And we aren't ditching
alleviate some
things,
of our
we're
tax
only
burden.
postponing them in the name of
Trying to be
It's not like we haven't
prosperity.
forgot
We're
about
trying
it.
to be responsible.
And fingers crossed, maybe some of these inflation rates will be
Yep.
brought down by 2023.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be better though, that sidewalk, if we waited and put it in concrete instead of
Oh,
asphalt?
I personally would prefer it in concrete. I
Yeah.
don't like asphalt sidewalk.
I-
That's just me.
The only reason why I brought that up is for, I guess,
Cost savings.
to keep our budget low.
Yeah, but if we put it off another year and do it right with the concrete.
And I think
It's
you have to
possible
think-
the inflation rate would drop to the point where concrete next year is the same price as asphalt this year.
And I think we need to think long term with that, where yes, you might save upfront doing asphalt, but if if there's the potential to have to replace it, twice versus the lifespan of concrete, you're paying a lot more too. So I think maybe getting a better understanding, which maybe Gary or Ken can come.
The other side of that is you do an asphalt, and when it's time to replace it, maybe the grand list has come up so much that it's not even an issue. Like, yep,
Right.
we have money, we can do it concrete now.
Ellen has
Exactly.
her hand raised, guys.
Ellen?
No, I was just gonna say, I'm trying to remember if this is a thing or not. It seems like an annoying wrench to throw in, but could you say we put 10,000 into a sidewalk fund or 15 or whatever, and then if you would have, if you did that again next year, then it would, like, you are saving ahead to plan to do it later when you could, and then you could afford concrete. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah,
You could
absolutely.
put some for next year.
We do have a sidewalk appropriation fund, and so 25,000 per year goes into that fund. And that's for general maintenance of all sidewalks. So I
That number's
believe,
reflected in there.
yes, it is. There is a 25,000
Yeah,
appropriation for
it's
sidewalk, but,
part of what,
but there's not much in that account currently, correct? Because we used it all.
$3,000 left.
right,
Okay. So yes, good thinking. We're there. Did we just start that a couple of years ago?
no, that's been, I think they started doing that sometime in the early 90s,
Okay.
sidewalk appropriation. Yeah, so it's been a while, but we pretty much drained it, what we had in there for a balance with the sidewalk project we did this past
St.
summer.
Albans.
So it's close to zero now. There's a little bit in it, but not very much.
Yeah.
A couple thousand, I think that's about it.
We'll roll it over.
Okay, so we will do some work on making those 3 adjustments. As Abby said, it looks like, you know, we're definitely gonna have to have a meeting next Tuesday then. So we'll get notices posted for a special meeting on, that would be February 1st, next Tuesday. And we've got, at least though now, 3 of the 4 funds approved, so I think we made some good progress tonight. This was really good work, being willing to compromise on some of the capital projects in the general fund. And we'll show you a new draft of general fund next Tuesday. Yeah, so are we good right now then with the budget stuff?
I think so,
I think
yeah.
we did well.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's daunting. It's, you know, you just gotta be tenacious and stay on it. That's the only way you can get through it some years.
You know what I mean? We all went into it knowing that we added all these projects
Right.
just to strike them. If we, noticed that our
If-
budget
if
would
we
go up
hadn't-
25%.
If we hadn't added anything, we never would have known, so.
All right, let's keep on trucking here. We'll move into manager's report.
Okay, this will be pretty quick. Actually, we had the discussion already on the digester project and whether the board wanted to intervene on that. We decided yes, so that's set.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Next item, I wanted the board to be aware that I've been contacted by Swanton Village regarding my upcoming departure to Lindenville Electric Department. Swanton would like the Enosburg Falls Board of Trustees to know that they are willing to assist where they can if Enosburg Falls would like help through the transition period while you're going through a new hire for a new village manager and get that person on board. Reggie Bellevue, who is the village manager for Swanton, has offered to come to one of your board meetings to discuss any issues, if there's anything you would like to discuss with Swanton next month. You know, I've tentatively put that on the agenda for February 8th, but that's really up to you guys. Reggie called me and just wanted you guys to know that, you know, Swanton will help once I leave through that transition period if there's something that you want Swanton to be assisting or helping with. And he's willing to come in and talk with you guys at one of your board meetings if you would like to do that, have a sit down face to face with Reggie. So.
I don't know if we need it just yet.
I don't have
but
any burning questions at this point, but we
do
will
definitely
take his
appreciate
contact
it,
info.
for sure.
Okay, all right, so
And
I'll
we
tell
certainly
him,
appreciate his offer. and
Right.
we,
right,
you know,
right.
just
and
don't know right at this moment.
Right, what specifically you'd like to ask of them. So I'll just let him know that you guys really appreciate the offer, and you'll think a little bit about that and let him know.
Be in touch when we're ready.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Certainly, if
Okay.
there's something we think he can help us with, I don't think we'll hesitate to ask him.
Okay, that's great, and that's, you know, again, earlier in the meeting, the topic of the value of public power had come up, and, you know, having a discussion with Momentum in regards to some studies that VEPS is trying to put together for its members. This is another example of that, the value of public power. You know, we're all municipalities, we all work together. There's nobody, you know, with a hidden agenda trying to make, you know, undue profits off from someone else. And this is an honest offer from another municipally owned electric utility that's close by, only 20 minutes away. And saying, you know, hey, we're here to try and help you if you need some assistance, let us know. So public power at work. And then lastly, just wanted to make the board aware of some new electric vehicle discounts that are being offered through VEPSA to members of VEPSA and their customers. So they've got it broken down into a few different tiers. So if you buy an all-new electric vehicle, there's $1,000 incentive there, a $1,000 discount that VEPSA will reimburse you for on an all-new electric vehicle, $500 on a new plug-in hybrid, $500 for a used all-electric vehicle, or $250 for a used plug-in hybrid.
How long are these discounts good for?
I think they're open-ended right now. I'm not aware of any ending
I didn't know if it's like a
period.
first quarter thing or.
No, I think they're open-ended. They intend to have these in for a while at least.
Well, I would think, they're probably gonna have to have them in for a while. I know that Jim has ordered an all-electric, I think a Ford truck.
Oh, has he?
And he's in his second year now of waiting for it.
Yeah, he lives in Fairfield though, right? So
But
he's
it
not
just,
in our
but I mean,
service
it's,
territory.
anybody that is looking into this, if they're looking at brand new, you're not gonna plan on using it right away.
Yeah, you're right. There's a big backlog on pretty much, even if they're gas.
Yeah.
I mean, even just basic, Toyota, Ford, Chevys, they've got a backlog right now. In fact, you've probably seen commercials. Ford is encouraging people
Oh, yes, order
to
yours.
pre-order your vehicle in advance because they're having a hard time
I think
keeping up with the
he's in his
demand.
second year.
Yeah,
Does this include just vehicles like passenger cars and trucks?
Yeah.
Or like, not like lawnmowers?
the
We
discounts.
have other
Yeah,
rates
the-
right here for that.
Yeah, these are for passenger vehicles, but they do have incentives, discounts for things like lawnmowers, electric
Might get
lawnmowers.
one. They always start.
All right. I have an electric weed whacker. I have an electric
weed whacker
chainsaw.
too, yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad has one.
Yeah, are you thinking about
Those things are
buying
great.
I
one?
was thinking about it, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
makes
call,
sense.
call, so
I'd
you've
make
got
a
her
mistake on the
contact
board.
right in here. Julia Leopold is the person to contact from VEPSA if you're interested in getting one of their discounts in their electric equipment or vehicle program. But I know lawnmowers is one of the things that they have. They've had that one for a while.
Lawnmowers, leaf blowers,
And then that's only
lawnmowers.
VEPSA, not including Efficiency Vermont.
Correct.
All right, there's other
Between
rebates
the
to be
two of
had there.
those,
Do a little double dipping should be a good
Yeah.
deal.
Why not? I mean, if they're offering the discount, you might as well take it.
free money,
Should have
right?
thought of that before I bought him and his damn snowblower tractor.
Did you see they've got a new, I saw a commercial for electric snow blowers for the first time like 2 days ago.
Not the plug-in ones, cordless ones, right?
They're cordless.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're cordless. They run on a battery, and they had two different sizes. They had a bigger one for like doing your driveway, but they also had a smaller one that looked like it was about the size of a shovel
Like do your deck or
for
something.
doing like, little sidewalks or
Uh-huh.
pathways or your stairs if you've got, or a deck if you've got a deck. So they had, one like around this wide, but then a bigger one that was a push one for your driveway.
Well,
They
this is a
looked like they
driveway.
worked awesome. But I don't
That was
know, I
my
just
new
saw
Mustang.
that like 2 days ago. I'd never seen that before on a commercial.
All right,
And that's it for manager's report.
thank you, John. Any other business tonight? We can talk about electric lawn care products when we're headed into executive. All right, no other business. Need a motion to go into executive for the purpose of discussing negotiations in which premature public knowledge may compromise the position of the municipality.
I move we go into executive.
I'll second.
Sandy with the first, you with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Have a good night, Ellen.
Night.